about how to stop restrictive eating and the endless cycle of chronic dieting. Maybe you're worried that if you stop, you'll lose all control. In today's video, I'm going to answer your biggest questions about how to end your restrictive eating behaviors without losing control. By the end of this video, you'll have a better idea of how practicing intuitive eating techniques repairs your relationship with food and your body without your biggest fears of losing all control being realized. Managing an eating disorder can be a lonely journey. For in-depth information and strategies for managing your eating disorder, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell in the corner so you're notified when I post a new video every Wednesday. I'm Meredith MacKenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a registered clinical counselor, eating disorders therapist, and a doctoral graduate student. In my work with hundreds of clients with eating disorders, I've supported them to loosen the grips of their eating disorder, to live fulfilling lives with freedom from food and compensatory behaviors. Now it's your turn. Before we get started, I want to provide a bit of a disclaimer that even though I am a registered clinical counselor, the information in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you do believe you have an eating disorder, please reach out to a registered professional for appropriate support. Intuitive eating is a way of living and really a way of repairing your relationship with food in your body that was jointly created by Elise Resch and Evelyn Tribble. You can get a copy of their book called Intuitive Eating, A Revolutionary Anti-Diet online, and I've provided a link in the description box down below if you would like to order a copy for yourself. And the information that I'll be providing in today's video comes directly from this book. So if you're interested, you might want a copy for yourself. When I work with clients with chronic dieting, disordered eating, binge eating disorder, and other eating disorders, one of the biggest fears that they have is that if they don't hold on to their dieting behaviors or their restrictive eating behaviors, is that they are going to lose all control and they will eat anything and everything at all times and never be able to stop. And attached to this fear is that they'll also gain a lot of weight and that would just be devastating for them. And I believe this fear holds a lot of people back from taking the steps that can really help them to recover from their eating disorder and have a better relationship with themselves with more freedom from food. So in today's video, I want to provide you with information about intuitive eating and how you don't actually lose control when you start to intuitively eat, and hopefully reassure some of those fears that you might have. In my last video, I covered the basics of intuitive eating. So if you haven't watched that video, you might want to go back and watch that one now. And a major focus of intuitive eating is rejecting the diet mentality, eating foods that satisfy you, and making peace with food. And when you put it into context of disordered eating or an eating disorder, these concepts directly challenge all of the restrictive eating ideas that we probably have. This is because dieting and restrictive eating creates a scarcity mentality. Food rules that we create with restrictive eating really stringently control what we can eat, when we can eat it, how we can eat it, and how often we can eat it. We even restrict our access to these foods by not keeping the foods in our home, telling ourselves that we're only permitted to eat them on special occasions, and limiting the frequency and amount of those foods that we have access to. And this is paired with labeling these foods as bad. And if I eat something that's bad, therefore I am bad. We feel as though we've made a mistake or that we've done something really wrong when we eat these foods in larger quantities or more frequency, or if we don't follow the rules that we've set out for ourselves. And the important point that I want to make here that I think is hard for people to genuinely believe on a deeper level is that food does not have a moral value. Food is food. When I talk to clients about the moral value of food, I like to bring it back to thinking about children, and especially young children, before they've learned anything about what is good food or what is bad food. Kids eat when they're hungry, and they know what they like, and they go for it. And they're not concerned about whether or not Oreos are good for them, or if they should be eating more vegetables. They have a really strong sense of their intuitive eater internally, and they allow this to guide them. You know, sometimes they're just not hungry for dinner, and they'll let you know that. And something happens as we grow and we develop, which really we get a lot of information from our society, and we're educated through our families that we live in. But we start to lose this intuitive way of eating as we grow up, as we start to put these labels on our food. So if you have one takeaway from the video, which I would really love you to mull over and really try to think about, is that food has no moral value. And where do we come up with this? Where do we get these ideas from? And what foods are you labeling as good and bad, which maybe you need to reassess for yourself? Comment below and tell me, where did you receive the messages about what foods were good and bad in your world? Did it start at home with your family, your friends, the media? I'm really curious, let me know. Now, the challenge that faces a lot of people is that they recognize that restrictive eating is not working for them and it's something that they'd like to change. And in thinking about this, they realize, okay, I'd like to start opening up or increasing the variety of foods that I'm eating and allowing some of those foods that I would have typically called bad foods into my diet. And the error that people make, and it's an honest mistake to make, is that they only half buy into the intuitive eating principles. So maybe they increase the variety of foods that they're eating and they're allowing foods in their diet that they typically wouldn't or they would have restricted. But because they hold on to that food police critic within themselves, eating these foods causes them to have a reactive emotional experience. And that's guilt, because their internal food police say, no, those foods are bad and you should not be eating them. And how do you feel when you're scolded by the food police other than feeling just bad yourself? So they feel guilty about eating them. And again, because they've lived with the scarcity mindset of these foods are not really something I should be eating, I really need to limit it, I don't know when I'm gonna have access to those foods again, they start to overeat these foods, which leads to more guilt. How do we repair the relationship that we have with the food that we eat and stop restrictive eating? And this is where the intuitive eating principles really come in. But practicing intuitive eating principles over time, over and over and over again, I'm not gonna say that it's easy, but it's by practicing something continuously and catching yourself when the food police pop up. It leads to a relationship with food that doesn't attach a moral value to what it is that we're eating. There's no meaning in it. It's just food, we're eating it, it's nourishment, and it probably tastes good, and there's no unwelcome guilt that's associated with that. Now, an important point to recognize is that when you first begin healing your relationship with food and your body and practicing these intuitive eating principles, because you have deprived yourself of these foods, you are likely to eat more of them than you typically would. When we deprive ourselves of anything, let alone food, it creates a desire within us for that exact thing. And that's true whether or not you've allowed yourself to have cheat days or secretive binges with these foods. We still associate scarcity with these specific foods. So we crave them, we want them, we desire them, we have urges to eat them because we've deprived ourselves of flexibly eating them. So this desire for these foods will be high for a period of time. And that's totally normal, totally expected. And I want you to recognize this for yourself and be prepared for it, because at the same time, you're likely to have an increase in the feelings of guilt that you're having about the foods that you're eating. Again, that's a totally normal experience. And the problem that I recognize that my clients come into, and you might recognize this for yourself, is that when they decide that they're going to abolish the restrictive eating habits that they have been following and they start to open up and eat more flexibly, is that they experience the feelings of guilt and then they get scared. And when they get scared, they're like, no, I can't do this. This is too overwhelming. I feel like I'm losing control because I'm eating these foods in a higher quantity or greater frequency than I'm used to. So I need to pump the brakes and I need to go back to my restrictive eating habits. And when we do this, it only perpetuates that cycle and creates more feelings of guilt for ourselves, more feelings of shame, and really marries us to the diet culture mentality because we don't want to go there. And we know that by following these rules, it's going to be safe and that this is something that's known to us. The ingenious thing about the diet culture is that it provides a clear set of rules. You can find them anywhere. There's a sense of credibility that comes with them because everyone and anyone is talking about them. So we believe them to be true. And when we're scared of something and we're feeling overwhelmed and we don't have a clear picture of what's next, we cling to what is known. And we know diet culture and we know how to follow those rules, even if we're not satisfied with them or that they're not working for us. So I encourage you, if you are curious about starting your intuitive eating journey and repairing your relationship with food and your body and stopping your restrictive eating habits, please know that it's going to be scary. It's probably going to cause you to feel some guilt, and those are going to be yucky feelings, but those feelings are normal and they are okay to be feeling, and it's a part of the journey. This doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix, but it's so worth it. And what I can promise you, because it has been shown in the research literature and because intuitive eating has been around for many years now and has been found to be successful, is that once restrictive eating stops and you have healed that relationship, that your food police are not popping up anymore, that you are able to eat flexibly without the sensation of guilt, and that deprivation that you've created through dieting and restrictive eating has healed, these foods will take a balanced place in your everyday eating. And you're not going to overeat them anymore, and you're not going to lose complete control of your eating. Balanced eating without restriction is absolutely possible, and I'm inviting you to take that journey with me. If you're scared of anything, if you are worried about what this process looks like, leave me a comment in the comment section down below. I am really curious about what type of videos you're looking for. This is part of my intuitive eating series on this channel, and I'm looking to just expand and provide you with the information that you're gonna find helpful, that is gonna reassure you and feel as though you're not alone in this process. In today's video, we cover just one small part that scares a lot of people about overcoming their restrictive eating habits, and that is, will I lose control if I go off of my restrictive eating plan? And the answer is no. For a period, you will experience an increase in your eating of those foods that you've been restrictive with. However, it will balance out, and it takes time and it takes work, but you absolutely can do it. So stay tuned for next week's video, which will be published on Wednesday. I'll be talking about how to overcome that feeling of guilt that we feel when the food police is present and has labeled foods as bad, and how we can let go of these internalized labels and categorizations for our food. Now, I've also created a mindful eating log, which is a tool that I use in my counseling practice with my clients who have binge eating disorder or other eating disorders. I've provided a link in the description box down below where you can download this mindful eating log and use it for yourself. Now, if you haven't checked out my other videos, you're going to want to check out my series on binge eating, as well as this intuitive eating series that I'm creating now. I've provided links in the description box down below for those series so you can go watch them next. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends or anyone you think would benefit from learning more about binge eating disorder or intuitive eating. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video on Wednesday.